A man was pinned inside a flooded cave passage with almost no room to breathe. A downhill biker went from his best run of the day to a collapsed lung in seconds. A child was carried out to sea alone in an inflatable dinghy. And 2 explorers found themselves trapped inside a train tunnel as a freight train came roaring toward them. These are the moments where ordinary decisions turned into life-or-death situations, and where surviving meant reacting before it was too late. Let's dive straight into it. In January 2014, Bob Johnson entered Lost Johns's cave with a group of experienced cavers, expecting the kind of underground adventure that cavers live for. Tight passages, cold water, difficult crawls, and the thrill of pushing through a place most people would never willingly enter. But as Bob adjusted his helmet camera and followed the group deeper underground, he had no idea that within minutes, the trip would turn into one of the most terrifying moments of his life. Lost John's Cave is not the kind of place where a mistake gives you much room to recover. The passages are narrow, the rock is wet, and the water inside the cave is constantly moving. In the right conditions, it is part of the challenge. But if someone gets stuck, that same water can turn the cave into a trap. At first, everything went normally. The group moved through the early sections, their voices echoing through the limestone as they made their way farther from daylight. Passage so low that there was barely enough space to lift your head. The rock pressed in from every side, and the water kept moving around them, making every surface slick, cold, and unpredictable. For someone even slightly claustrophobic, this kind of crawl would feel unbearable. You are not walking through the cave anymore. You are being swallowed by it, inch by inch. The smallest member of the group managed to get. Rock seemed to lock around him. Then he stopped completely. Bob was wedged in the passage, trapped down to his waist, unable to move forward and unable to back out. At first, the others did not fully understand how serious it was. There was still nervous joking, the kind of laughter people use when they assume someone will work themselves free in a moment. But Bob knew this was not just an awkward squeeze. He was stuck in a wet cave passage with water moving around his body, and every attempt to free himself only seemed to make him more trapped. That was when the mood changed. In a dry cave, they might have had time to talk, think, and solve the problem slowly. But this was not dry. Water was rising around him, filling his suit and adding weight and pressure to a situation that was already becoming dangerous. The more water gathered, the harder it became for him to move. And with his chest pressed against the rock, every breath started to feel more restricted. Pull properly, and no easy way to move a trapped body without making the position worse. Every second mattered, because the water did not stop moving just because Bob was stuck. Then the group realized they had to change tactics. Pushing him forward was not working. The only chance was to pull him back the way he had come. One caver positioned himself behind Bob, another helped from farther back, and together they formed a human chain, pulling against the cave with everything they had. It was their last real option before the situation became even more dangerous. Bob came free. The rock released him, and he was able to move again. After being trapped in that narrow, flooded passage, even a single full breath must have felt like being given his life back. But the ordeal was not over. They were still deep inside the cave system, soaked, shaken, and far from the surface. The group had to spend hours taking alternate passages before they finally reached daylight again. Physically, Bob survived. But mentally, those minutes inside the tube stayed with him. He later said that watching the helmet camera footage still made him anxious, because it brought him straight back to that feeling of being pinned underground with cold water rising around him and no clear way out. And that is what makes this footage so frightening. Bob did not fall from a cliff. He was not caught in a sudden explosion or attacked by an animal. He was trapped by inches, by a passage just tight enough, water just high enough. Jordan Boostmaster is a mountain bike rider and filmmaker known for freeride, downhill, and big mountain bike adventures. His videos usually carry that same feeling riders chase at places like Whistler: speed, flow, confidence, and the kind of controlled chaos that makes downhill riding so addictive. And on opening day at Whistler Bike Park, everything seemed to be lining up perfectly for Jordan. The park had just opened, the trails had been freshly worked on, and Jordan was riding with friends through some of the smoothest conditions he had felt there in a long time. The energy was high from the start. New lifts, fresh berms, fast trails, and a full day ahead. Every run seemed to build more confidence, and Jordan even said he felt like he was riding better than ever. But that is where downhill riding can become dangerous. Because the better a rider feels, the easier it is to keep pushing. One more lap, one more trail, one more rowdy section with friends. And after hours of riding, speed and confidence can start to blur the line between control and risk.
Woo. Okay, oh, give a pedal.
And I was not expecting this guy to stop on this feature.
Yo, bro! Bro!
Sorry about that.
I nose manualed the whole thing.
I did see that.
That was hilarious.
Everyone's okay.
Frick, yeah. Oh, it's okay.
But this was only the beginning. Near the end of the day, Jordan followed the group into another run. The pace was fast, the trail was technical, and everything was happening in seconds. Then, without warning, the ride turned into one of the worst crashes of his life.
Honestly, I was pretty content with just calling it a day right there. But you know what? We're all having a blast. Let's do another run. Why not?
Sick. Oh, that was a cool move. That was a heckin' sick move. Are we riding? He's going biking. Let's go biking.
Since Ninja Cougs and Fade to Black is just running so well, of course we're going to hit that again, right? Just a heads up, this may not be easy to watch.
The impact was brutal. Jordan hit the ground so hard that for a moment he could not breathe at all. He had knocked the wind out of himself before, but this was different. There was no air coming in, no air going out, and the panic of not being able to breathe hit almost instantly. He later said he nearly passed out, and in those first moments, it was clear this was not just a normal crash.
Are you just winded? Yeah. Grab your bike.
I almost passed out at this point, and I think it was because I couldn't exhale any carbon dioxide. At this point, it felt like I was starting to almost wake up from a dream.
Just breathe. You're okay. You're okay. Can you talk?
A little bit.
His friends and nearby riders called patrol, and within minutes, help arrived. But even then, Jordan knew something was seriously wrong. The pain in his side was intense, his breathing felt restricted, and the medical team quickly realized this could be more than broken ribs.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Okay.
Any pain in your shoulders and arms?
What's bothering you the most? Is it pain?
Yeah, just pain and just like I can't take regular breaths.
Yeah.
Male, 35, Juliet, Oscar, with pain and guarding in the right upper quadrant. We're going to go code 3 on this one.
What'd you see?
A bike in front of me on the ground.
So Andrew Santos was the rider behind me, and this is what he saw.
Watch out! Hey! Watch out, rider down!
An ambulance arrived, and soon after, a helicopter was called from Vancouver in case the injuries were critical. At the hospital, doctors confirmed the damage. Jordan had fractured 5 ribs and suffered a collapsed lung. He needed treatment to drain fluid from his side before being flown to Vancouver General Hospital, where he spent 3 days recovering. What makes the footage so frightening is how quickly the day changed. One moment, Jordan was riding some of the best laps of opening day, surrounded by friends and feeling stronger than ever. The next, he was on the ground, unable to breathe, waiting for medics to figure out how serious the damage really was. And that is the reality of downhill mountain biking. The trails can feel smooth, the rider can feel confident, and the day can feel perfect, until one mistake, one impact, or one unlucky moment turns everything upside down. Jordan survived, but the crash was a reminder that in a sport built around speed and control, losing control for even a second can send you straight to the hospital. But in the next case, survival came down to timing, luck, and a few terrifying seconds. A day at the beach can feel harmless, especially when the water looks calm and the shore is still close enough to see. But in this next clip, one family's afternoon at Kinmel Bay in Wales turned into a terrifying emergency in a matter of minutes. A little girl had been sitting in an inflatable dinghy near the shoreline when the line holding it in place came loose. At first, it may not have looked like a disaster. The dinghy was still floating, the beach was still visible, and from a distance, it probably seemed like there was still time to fix it. But the sea does not need much time to take control. Slowly, the inflatable began drifting farther from shore. And that is what makes situations like this so frightening. A child in an inflatable has almost no control once the current or wind takes over. She could not paddle herself back properly. She could not step out. She could only sit there, watching the beach get farther away, while the people on land realized too late that she was being carried out to sea. By the time the emergency call was made, she was already several hundred meters from shore. The RNLI launched from Rhyl and raced toward her, but even with rescuers on the way, every second mattered. Out on open water, an inflatable is fragile. One strong wave, one sudden gust of wind, or one moment of panic could have made the rescue far more dangerous.
It's okay, you're alright. You okay? You're alright.
Come on, it's alright.
Fine, you okay?
Pull up down there. Come on, sweetheart.
As the lifeboat crew got closer, they could hear how scared she was. She was crying for help, completely alone on the water, waiting for someone to reach her before the dinghy drifted even farther out.
Come on. It's alright. Sit there. Watch your safe now, aren't you? Come on. We'll get you back to your parents, yeah?
Okay.
That's ambulance boat, that. Ambulance boat's that. Hey? You with
Make your way in, mate. We're going to go straight in, yeah?
Thankfully, the RNLI crew reached her in time. They pulled alongside the inflatable, calmed her down, and brought her safely back before the situation could get any worse. But what makes this rescue so important is how little room there was for wrong moves. She was already hundreds of meters from shore, alone on a small inflatable, with no real way to control where the sea was taking her. And one of the smartest things she did was stay on the dinghy. In a panic, it would have been easy to try to jump into the water and swim back. But from that distance, especially for a child, that could have turned fatal very quickly. The shore may have still been visible, but visibility does not mean safety. Cold water, current, exhaustion, and panic can take over in seconds. That is why this footage is so powerful. Nothing dramatic had to happen for this to become life-threatening. No storm, no huge waves, no obvious warning, just a loose line, a small inflatable, and a child drifting farther away while everyone on shore realized they could not reach her on their own. Luckily, the rescue came in time. But it is hard not to think about how different this could have been if the RNLI had arrived only moments later, if the inflatable had tipped, or if she had tried to swim for shore. In a situation like this, survival really did come down to seconds. And this time, those seconds were just enough. But things only get more dangerous from here. This next clip from India begins with a helpless calf trapped in one of the worst places it could be, on the edge of a steep, slippery slope, just above a wild river. How the calf ended up there was not clear, but what was clear was that it could not get out by itself. The ground beneath it was too slick. The slope was too steep, and every movement only brought it closer to the rushing water below. For several moments, the calf struggled helplessly. It slipped, fought, and tried to keep itself from being pulled deeper into danger. And once it ended up in the water, the situation became much more serious. The current was strong, unpredictable, and far too powerful for an exhausted young animal to fight for long. People stood nearby watching, but no one moved at first. And honestly, it is hard to blame them. Jumping in after the calf meant putting your own life at risk. One bad step on that slope, one wrong landing, or one pull from the current could have turned the rescue into a tragedy for both the animal and the person trying to save it. But then one man decided he could not just stand there and watch. He slid down the cliff toward the river, hitting the edge hard before falling into the water right beside the calf. It was a painful and dangerous way to enter, but at that moment, there was no time for a perfect rescue. The calf was already in trouble for a long time, and every second it spent in that water made survival less likely. The man managed to reach it and guide it toward the edge, but getting there was only half the battle. The calf was heavy, frightened, and exhausted, while the water kept pulling against them. Every time they got close to safety, the current made it harder to lift the animal out. Then another man came down to help. Together, they fought against the slippery bank and the force of the river until they finally managed to pull the calf out of the water. And that is what makes this footage so powerful. This was not a clean, easy rescue. It was messy, dangerous, and completely unpredictable. The first man especially put everything on the line. He did not know if he would land safely. He did not know if he could fight the current. He did not know if anyone else would reach him in time if things went wrong. But he went anyway, because a helpless animal was seconds away from being swept away. And in the end, those seconds mattered. The calf survived because two people chose to act when standing still would have been easier. For that baby animal, the difference between drowning and being pulled back to safety came down to courage, timing, and one man willing to risk himself when no one else moved. Now, this next clip captures the kind of fear that builds when escape starts feeling impossible. This video was shared on YouTube by Antonio Salvatore, who witnessed a surfer in Santa Cruz trying to get out of the water the hard way. And from the beginning, you can tell this was not just an uncomfortable situation, it was dangerous. The surfer had somehow ended up trapped between the rocks, with rough swell pushing him back again and again. It was not clear how he got into that position, but once he was there, every wave made getting out harder. The water kept driving him toward the rocks, then pulling him back out before he could fully escape. And that is one of the most terrifying places to be in the ocean. The surfer seemed experienced. He did not panic. He waited, watched the waves, and tried to time his movements instead of fighting blindly against the water. And that may be the reason he survived, because in rough surf, panic can kill faster than the waves themselves. If you waste all your energy fighting the ocean at the wrong moment, exhaustion takes over. And once exhaustion sets in, even a strong swimmer can start to lose. For a long time, he kept trying to find a way out. But every attempt came with risk. If he moved too early, a wave could slam him into the rocks. If he waited too long, the next set could pull him back into deeper trouble. And if he slipped while climbing out, he could have been trapped in the same cycle all over again, only more tired than before. That is what makes this footage so stressful to watch. He was not far from safety. He was right beside it. But the rocks that could save him could also seriously injure him if the ocean threw him into them at the wrong angle. Finally, after a very long struggle, he found the opening he needed. The water pulled back just enough, the timing lined up, and he managed to climb out onto the rocks. He appeared to be unharmed, but clearly exhausted, and he was lucky. Because this is exactly how people drown in rough surf. Not always because they are too far from shore, but because they get trapped in a place where the ocean gives them almost no clean way out. Every wave costs energy. Every failed attempt makes the next one harder. And if this had gone on much longer, the ending could have been very different. But the danger does not stop here. This next clip was shared by Abandoned and Creepy Australia. and it shows two people putting themselves in one of the most dangerous places they could possibly be. In the middle of the night, around 3 a.m., they walked into what appeared to be an active train tunnel. No clear escape route, no guaranteed safe space. Just the tracks, the darkness, and the assumption that nothing would come through while they were inside. And from the moment they stepped in, the risk was obvious. A train tunnel is not an abandoned hallway or a harmless place to explore. It is a confined space built for one thing only: trains. Once you are deep inside, you have almost no control over what happens next. At first, everything seemed quiet. Only their footsteps, their voices, and the echo of the tunnel around them filled the space. But that silence was misleading. Inside a tunnel, sound can bounce and distort, and by the time you fully realize a train is coming, it may already be too late to run out. And then, the worst possible thing happened. A freight train was approaching.
Train. Yep, that's a train. It goes on.
In that moment, the tunnel changed completely. It was no longer just dark or unsettling. It became a trap. They were already too far inside to outrun it, and there was no exit waiting ahead. All they could do was search for a space along the wall and hope the tunnel gave them enough room to survive.
It's going to be right on our side too. Holy fucking shit.
Yeah, man. My ears are ringing. Holy.
Luckily, they found one just in time. But that small gap was the only reason they made it out alive. If the train had been even slightly wider, if they had chosen the wrong section of wall, or if they had realized what was happening a few seconds later, this footage could have ended in tragedy. As the freight train passed, the entire tunnel must have shaken around them. The noise, the wind, and the force of it moving so close would have made one thing painfully clear. They had come within inches of a fatal mistake, and that is what makes the clip so terrifying. They did not survive because the situation was safe. They survived because, at the last possible moment, there happened to be just enough space for them to exist beside something that could have killed them instantly. A train tunnel does not have to malfunction to become deadly. It is dangerous because it is doing exactly what it was built to do. And inside a place like that, being wrong by even a few seconds can be enough. But the next moment is terrifying for a different reason, because once they were inside, getting out was no longer simple. This clip comes from Caveman Hikes, a channel built around deep cave exploration, tight underground passages, and places most people would never even think about entering. But in this video, the danger was not a sudden fall, a flood, or a collapse. It was something much slower and more psychological. The feeling of being trapped underground, with rock pressing in from every side. The group had entered a low cave system with several experienced cavers, including Gary, who was about to face the kind of passage that can make even calm people start to panic. From the outside, it may just look like a crawl, but once someone is inside, it becomes something completely different. There is no standing up, no turning around easily, No room to stretch, breathe freely, or move the way your body wants to move. And that was exactly where Gary started to struggle.
Guys, you're all right there.
Gary has failed to make it through the passage, and he is attempting to back out. But he is exhausted and cannot establish the necessary leverage to push himself out of the low and rugged area. Warning, the actions and stunts performed in this video were done so by professionals. Do not enter a cave without a cave tour guide.
No, I'm through the worst of it.
As he tried to push through the tight section, the passage became too low and too rough. The ceiling pressed down above him, the floor scraped beneath him, and the rock around his hips and chest left him with almost no leverage. He was not simply crawling anymore. He was wedged into the cave, trying to force his body through a space that did not want to let him pass. At first, the others stayed calm. In caving, tight squeezes are part of the experience, and Gary was not inexperienced. But then, it became clear that he was not moving forward. He was exhausted, stuck in a low, rugged section, and unable to generate enough force to push himself out. Even backing up was difficult, because in a passage that tight, reversing can be just as hard as going forward. That is what makes this footage so uncomfortable.
Okay, so
Gary makes another attempt. This time, I give him more guidance from the far side.
now sit there for a second. There's that knuckle, and you kind of have to come this way over here and sort of go back and forth.
Small pieces of plastic are used above and below the cavers to help them slide through the rugged lava passage.
We can give you that, but that's
These
up to you.
sliders tremendously help speed up the process of navigating low areas of the
I
cave.
still think you got to come this way, even though it seems odd. Does that help or no?
When someone gets stuck underground, the options become very limited very quickly. You cannot simply stand up and reset. You cannot easily turn your body or pull someone out from the side. Even helping becomes complicated because there is barely enough space for one person, let alone several people trying to assist. And the cave itself made everything worse. The air drafting through the tunnel was cold, which meant Gary could not just lie there and rest for long. The longer he stayed still, the more the cold and fatigue worked against him. His muscles were already tired from crawling, squeezing, and dragging himself through the passage. And when exhaustion builds inside a tight cave, panic is never far behind. For a moment, Gary had to stop and rest. And that is where the fear really settles in, because underground, resting does not feel like safety. It feels like being stuck in place, surrounded by stone, thinking about how far you are from daylight and how difficult it would be for anyone to rescue you if the situation got worse. Every movement had to be deliberate. Every shift of the hips or shoulders mattered. One wrong angle could make the passage feel even tighter.
Oh, Jesus. That's what I said.
This time, with more guidance and the sliders helping him move, he managed to fight his way through the low section. The relief was immediate, but the experience showed how quickly confidence can disappear underground. A passage that looks possible from the outside can become terrifying once your body is inside it, and you realize you cannot move the way you expected. But the cave was not finished with them. After finding more open passage and beautiful formations deeper inside, the group reached another low section. And once again, they had to go back into the kind of space that forces your body flat against the rock. Gary removed his helmet and some gear to make himself smaller, then pushed into another tight squeeze that was shorter, but just as low.
Of our tools.
Nobody. My upstairs neighbors at 3 in the morning.
Got it.
How big of a chunk?
All of it.
Like the whole thing?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Arlen works to remove a huge rock in order to free up space for the next passage crawl.
This is the rock we moved. This was one of them.
It's game on again as we press under the low divide.
The jokes helped break the tension, but the danger was still there. That is often how people deal with fear underground. They laugh, talk, and keep moving, because the alternative is thinking too much about where they are. But no amount of joking changes the reality. If someone freezes, panics, or gets trapped in a passage like that, getting them out can become extremely difficult. And the hardest part about caving is that reaching the end does not mean you are safe.
You might be better off coming from this angle over here.
Gary fights his way through. The jokes break the tension of the moment.
Where's that backslider?
I'm trying to put it on the back.
Okay, because he's got double pinches.
You got in there too quick.
Sorry. You have to do that thing where you went through this.
Yeah.
I don't like this one either.
I think this is the one where your video shows somebody's feet flailing.
No, that was the first one.
Yeah, I got a lot of video of Arlen's feet.
He's pushing on my ass, man.
Awesome.
I'm pushing this.
He was telling me before this he wanted to do that.
That's my ass.
He was saying, I hope I get behind Gary.
I get so many opportunities, Gary, and I took advantage of it. Sorry. Yeah. Where the helmet there for mine?
Well, he can bring that through. Oh, you made it.
Yeah, I'm through now.
When the passage finally stopped, they still had to turn around and do it all in reverse. Every crawl, every squeeze, every section that had already tested them once had to be faced again on the way out. That thought alone is enough to make claustrophobia rise, because the cave gives no shortcut back to daylight. The only way out is through the same tight spaces that got you in. That is what makes this video so unnerving. These were experienced cavers. They knew what they were doing. They had tools, teamwork, and a plan. But even then, one tight passage was enough to push someone to the edge of exhaustion and fear. For most people, the scariest part of a cave is the darkness. But this footage shows something worse. The moment the cave becomes too small, your body stops cooperating, and the only thing between you and panic is the ability to stay calm while the earth closes in around you. But sometimes, the danger is not how far you go. It is realizing too late that getting back is not easy. What started as a normal day on Oahu's North Shore suddenly turned into chaos as rough surf began pushing people around close to shore. Waves were breaking hard, the current was pulling, and in the middle of it all, a woman was struggling to stay in control. From the beach, it might have looked like she was still close enough to make it back. But that is what makes the ocean so dangerous. Distance can be deceiving. A person can be only a few meters from safety and still be completely trapped by the water. Australian pro surfer Mikey Wright saw it happening. He was not out there for a rescue. He was just on the beach when the moment changed. But as the woman kept struggling and the waves kept hitting her, it became clear there was no time to wait. Every second she stayed in that water, she was losing more strength.
Oh no, he cannot. He's getting dragged out. No, he's getting.
Alright, he's gonna get maybe get saved. Should I hold this? Should I hold this?
You can't save him. Shit!
So Mikey ran in. He pushed through the shore break toward her, even though the same water that had trapped her could have taken him down too. Rough surf does not care if someone is a professional surfer. One bad wave can knock you off your feet, drag you under, or slam you into the sand before you even reach the person you are trying to save. When Mikey got to her, the rescue still was not over. She was exhausted and frightened, and the water kept pulling at both of them. He had to keep himself steady, keep her above the surface, and guide her back toward shore while the waves kept breaking around them. Eventually, they got close enough for others to rush in and help pull them both out of the surf. The woman survived, but the footage shows how close it came. If Mikey had hesitated, if the waves had hit differently, or if she had been pulled just a little farther out, this could have ended in tragedy. Instead, one person noticed the danger and moved fast enough to reach her before the ocean did. That's all for today, folks. If you like to see more of this creepy content, click on the video on screen.